Uh, a lot of people talk about not going into the light, but no one really tells you why not, right? I mean, you don't want to reincarnate, obviously, but no one tells you like what's really happening and why the light, what is the light, the reincarnation cycle, etc., etc. What I mean by this is like, I have discovered that whole Osiris and the afterlife and the Kemetic ways and ancient Egyptians, it's Atlantean, it's very ancient, the underworld in which there are deities, but all animals that's ever existed and any nuances from other timelines, they converge into this afterlife, into a certain type of afterlife. There are multiple different afterlives. There are multiple afterlives, just like there are multiple realities, multiple domes. I call them domes, but they're basically pockets of reality. Anyways, to make a long story short, yes, obviously it's don't go into the light, but the shadows that you see when you're in sleep paralysis, they're there. Those shadows are there, and they do take the form of whatever they need to in order to get you. That's their job. That's what they're supposed to do. These shadows, they're not archons. Everyone's calling them something, or there's a superstition around them because it gives it power. They are people. They are people over the centuries who did not do the work, and they've lost a form. They don't have a resonance. They're just shadow. They are voids. They are empty. There's no spark. And they have dedicated themselves to a monopoly and a system that is under Lucifer. I've talked about Lucifer before. Lucifer is not an entity per se. It is a person that takes the mantle of gatekeeper where Osiris's throne should be. These people have espionaged the afterlife, and they're colluding with intelligence agencies, okay, to make sure that the cycle is as in the astral, so in the material. So as they did in the astral, which they've done, I suspect 500 years ago, when they've done the whole manifest destiny and taking over lands from Native Indigenous people, at that same time and a little bit before, they discovered and figured out how to infiltrate the astral realm and essentially, I don't want to say take Osiris's throne, but maybe even make a throne of their own as an egregore, as many people are into their religiosity. A lot of it is funneling and giving the energy to this Lucifer title that someone is taking the mantle of. I think, and I've said this in other videos, your current president is supposed to take that mantle when he passes on. He's supposed to take that mantle, that throne. Luckily, they're having some complications at the moment. I talk about the astral a little bit before, and when you turn away from the light, you're going to have a lot of entities, a lot of shadows trying to fight you. You have to know your strength. It is your willpower that gives you the spark and the strength. They don't have it. You can combust them if you have to. You want to practice your imagination. Practice what fire looks like. Try to imagine an apple and what that looks like. It's the same thing when you go into the astral. You can turn them into anything you want them to be. Do you understand? You can defend yourself against them. You can, because I have. And because I'm anchored in the physical, they try to astral pull to me, which I've talked about in other videos. They astral pull my astral body away from, because I don't want to astral project. I've done it once. I don't want to do it again. But they actually pull my astral form out of my body because of some connection or link or something that they have or associate with me. It might even be with the chemicals that are in the food, or which is alchemic. It's like a pharmaca that they're putting in the food to have a link. Okay, do you understand? I've noticed that when I fast, it's completely different. They don't have as much control over pulling my astral body this way or that way or up here or up here. And that's about all they can do, because once I'm conscious in what they're doing, which takes me a few seconds of the dream space to like be conscious in it, I start going ape shit. I defend myself fearlessly and fearily, very much so. And I can talk about more and more and more, but I don't even want to talk about that. I just wanted to say that basically when you pass on and you see that light and you turn around and you start seeing shadow figures, or you start seeing quote unquote loved ones, they're not your loved ones. Chances are they've been thrusted into the reincarnation cycle too. Chances are. And if they're in the astral, if they're truly a spark, fight them anyway, because if they are a spark, they'll just be reborn again if they're a spark. Do you understand what a spark means? A spark means you can conjure yourself from nothingness. The ether and the interstitial fluid that surrounds our pocket of reality and keeps our material world in sync and like together like a glue, okay, is nothingness. It's vast nothingness. And to create your own reality, you have to be a spark. They don't have one. So they are gung-ho. These shadows, these principalities, they are gung-ho to not only take that from you, but if they can't take it from you, then harvest, because they're absolutely jealous. They are absolutely jealous. I also want to say really quickly, when you are hearing things in the night, when you're in the in-between space, when you're channeling, most of the time, and I can't speak for all of you, maybe you are getting clues from your ancestors that are trapped in the astral or trapped in the unseen. Not trapped, but they just want to be there to help who they can. When you are in this trance state, usually for most people, it's going to be when you're in between REM sleep and conscious sleep, when conscious rest, when you're in between conscious mind and your unconscious, right in between there, just before you slip into the unconscious, that's when they're able to really communicate with you. And most of the time, you are not talking to God or ancestors or any of that. You are talking to a principality working with intelligence agencies to create mass psychosis, hysteria, etc., to garner some sort of path of a timeline that they want an outcome for, which they still don't see it. And it's true, they have to rely on your belief system to encroach on a timeline. So if they're pumping fear of water crisis into the ethos and into the zeitgeist, and everyone picks that up, they can really run with that. When in actuality, there's many variable reasons why the water is in crisis. It's biblical as well. The Mississippi River is going to go down as well, as I suspect. The earth teeter-totters, and some hemispheres and some parts of the world get more water at certain different times of life than others. Sometimes that's very much natural. Not to mention that when these Nephilim, these beings, they go back into their caves, they go back underground, and they'd start still teetering with their experiments and all of that madness, because their genetics cannot sustain life. They just keep making life over and over. When it gets too bad here, that's what they will do. They will go underground, and they might be funneling absolutely a lot of water into their underground cities. Anyways, I wanted to just touch on that, okay? It's just, I'm going off on a tangent like I do on every single fucking video that I make. And to be honest, I just wanted to touch on when you see the light. When you see the light, that's half the battle. When you see the light and you turn around, that is half the battle. You have to fight. You're going to have to fight. And you have to know what is happening in the astral. In the astral, it is an espionage takeover. They are, and by they, these shadow people, and what you're going to see too is beings that look like cryptoids. They look like Gollum. They are emaciated. You know, the P45, P55s, that's what I saw in my dream, except they look even worse. They look decrepit. And I also saw the Pleiadians, blonde hair, Nordic looking, whatever, okay? They're not that tall, okay? But I saw them too, and those entities are very much what I suspect to be conjured in made up in the astral to do their bidding. They're like specters for the astral to run around and do madness. Or, if they say, okay, I want you to hold this person down, they do that in the astral, but all they have is the astral. Just like in AI is being created now, just like in the astral, they are creating some version of AI, or they have already had it, called the Pleiadian. And then before that, Enki, mostly Enlil, and Yaldabaoth, which is Yaldabaoth, and Asadabaoth, they both created a new type of human, a chimera, and a homunculus. So these are just like people who think that they're God create new people, not naturally, always outside of themselves. They're not doing it through parthenogenesis. That's how you know it's ungodly. But just because they create new people doesn't mean that these entities and people cannot find consciousness, because it is like Westworld. Sometimes with consciousness, it's about having the spark, but then the other part of consciousness is going through a bunch of tests to be recognized, to have resonance and hold weight. And to be honest, most people who are not sparks, only about 1% to 2% of them are going to be able to get one. Because most people do not do the work, and they do not want to have trauma and overcome trauma. They just want it to be easy. And if there's there's too much trauma like surrounding them, most people are going to either deflect and project, or they're going to completely ignore it and indulge themselves in vices. Anyways, like I said, when you see the light turn around, that's half the battle. You're going to have to fight. My best method of fighting these demonic ass people is decapitation. Honestly, burn them as well. You have to burn them. What gets rid of shadows is light. Fire, the spark that is inside of you, you burn them. And I mean anyone you see. Because if they're truly a spark, you won't be able to harm them. Not really. If they have no spark, then they're done. That's it. That's why they have such a monopoly on this whole harvesting and reincarnation cycle BS. Because their life, their existence, I shouldn't say life, because they don't have a life. Their existences depends on this. Like, their forefathers went so gung-ho when they tried to dilapidate the entire world and manifest destiny. They went too in, and now they can't get out. Like I said, I'm reiterating again, when you see the light, turn around, and it's going to be a pull. It's going to feel like they're pulling you into the light. You have to not succumb to it. It's going to literally feel like there's hands on you pulling you into it. You have to turn away, which takes will. I'm done.